I'm Marty Cohn, and welcome to BCTV's Meet the Candidates, a series that affords you an opportunity to hear from the folks who are running for elected office. Today, our guest is Jeanette White, a Democratic candidate for the state Senate in Windham County. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Marty.
All right, so you have been in the Vermont Senate since 2003.
I have, surprisingly.
Have your reasons for running, here you are, 2000, have your reasons for running changed between 2003 and 2018?
I don't know that my reasons for running have changed a lot, but I have a much better understanding of the system, and so I feel much more comfortable in working in it and getting things done. But my reasons for running were because I wanted to be able to make a difference, have a voice, and I think that I love policy. I really love making policy and listening to all different sides of issues and then trying to come to the best solution. So, and I've learned that is really what serving in the legislature is all about.
Great. So I looked up, you were the top vote getter in 2016.
Okay.
All right. So what kind of campaign are you running in 2018?
Oh, well, the same kind of campaign I've always run.
If it's worked once.
Kind of doing things like this, going to meetings, being with people, answering questions when people have questions. I'm not doing any printed material this year because there are so much demand on people for money this year, and it takes money to run a campaign, and so I'm doing a very low-key campaign, but trying to get out there and talk to people.
Great. Now, are you putting up yard signs?
Well, I have somewhere around the county a lot of signs, but you know what happens is that the election is over, and then people take the sign and they put it, the barn window broke, so they stick it in there, or they use it under the pets' food dishes or for their boots when they come in the house.
Sure.
So I just encourage people now. I have only about 15 signs at home.
Wow.
I have no idea where they are around the county, and I just encourage people, election's coming up a couple weeks before the election. If you want to haul out your sign and put it up, please do so.
Well, I would imagine that after this period of time and all the good work that you've done, people go into the voting booth and they see your name, check.
I hope.
Okay, so you're the chair this year. You've been the chair of government operations.
Yep.
Government operations, and you're excited about being the chair of government operations.
I am, and doesn't it sound boring?
What the heck does government operations? What do you do?
Well, we look at the structure of government, the kind of organizational structure of how government is. We are the ones that deal with state employees. We do all the procurement for the state with BGS, that kind of thing. Not the buildings, but the purchasing. We deal with elections law. All elections law comes through us.
Wow.
All municipal law. Things like open meetings, public records, the military.
Wow.
I love it. In my mind, it is the kind of foundation of the democracy, because we have these individual issues that we need to solve. But this really is the foundation. This is the participatory democracy that we know.
Wow.
And I love it.
Thank you for sharing. I really didn't know what that committee does. Because the committee that you serve on is the Judiciary Committee. Right.
So we have, in the Senate, we have two committees. We have, so in the morning, I'm a member of the Judiciary Committee, one of 5 members. And in the afternoon, I'm the chair with 4 other members of government operations.
Okay. Now, on the Judiciary Committee, there's one. On the federal level, we're hearing a lot of things that the federal Judiciary Committee is doing. What kind of issues do you deal with on the state level?
Well, we do. We also deal with judicial nominations.
Oh, really?
We do. And I happen to be, the Judiciary Committee isn't the one that does the nominations, but there's a judicial nominating board. And I serve on that. I was elected by the Senate to serve on that board.
Okay.
So then what will happen is we'll interview people this summer, and then we make recommendations to the governor. The governor appoints somebody, and then the Judiciary Committee interviews them and gives their advice and consent to the appointee. So we do that. We deal with the whole kind of criminal justice system. Law enforcement is in government operations. So these two committees have a nice intersection between each other around criminal justice and law enforcement. But we deal with, for example, we changed the juvenile justice last year so that now kids who are, at one point there was a horrific crime in Vermont, and they changed it in an emergency session. And we've found that this is almost always the wrong thing to do, is to change a law because of an incident. So that kids as low as 13 could be tried as an adult.
Wow.
Yeah, and the more we learn about brain development and stuff, so we've changed that. So now kids under 18, and then we'll go up to 19, and eventually up to 21 will start in family court,
right.
And then they can move to criminal court if they need to, but they'll start in family court.
Oh.
So we deal with things like that. We prison reform, mental health issues. The mental health issues are kind of a combination of the Health and Welfare Committee and our committee, because there are a lot of judicial issues around mental health, like involuntary commitments and medications and stuff. So we deal with all of that. We were the committee that dealt with marijuana and got that bill passed. So we did anything that has to do with the ability to sue or liability,
right?
We deal with.
Wow. Okay, so those are two active committees. So if you were reelected, would you want to stay on those committees?
Absolutely. I love both of those committees. I've
Great.
been on I was on health and welfare for a number of years, but I really like judiciary. It's yeah.
So and now that you'll continue with all your experience, that'll be great.
Yeah, it's a great committee, and I've found over the years that all the committees are really good, and we work hard and we work well together. And I know that there's a lot of partisan bickering outside of Vermont.
Right.
There's much less partisan bickering in Vermont, and when statements are made, they tend to sound partisan. But on the committees, we work closely together, and we need to have all those voices heard on the committees.
So that was a question that I had is, so in the course of your tenure at the State House, you've worked with 3 governors. 2 of them were Republican, 1 Democrat. So how do you work with the executive branch? Does it make a difference who's sitting in that corner office?
Well, it makes a difference
By party,
in terms
I mean.
of, sure, it makes a difference in terms of what's going to get signed and what's going to get vetoed.
Right.
That's clear. But there still is the different role of the executive branch and the legislative branch. So my opinions and positions were very much more closely aligned with Governor Shumlin than with Governor Douglas or Governor Scott. But we had differences because he had a whole different role. He was administering the law, implementing it. Right. And so we knocked heads sometimes. Right. But yes, it makes a difference. And a lot of the working with the executive branch is done through the leadership so the pro tem. The pro tem, for example, meets with the governor every week. Right. And then he shares with us what's happening. But we all feel free to walk into the corner office and.
Great. But what I was thinking was, does it, you have a track record of success in terms of passing certain legislation. And you've been able to work. It seems that it doesn't really, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but you've been successful whether there's an R or a D sitting in the.
Well, it might make a difference on how far you can get toward what your ideal position is.
Okay.
Because everything is, my position is here and somebody else's position is here. And you have to take all of that into consideration. And you have to look at all of those different ideas and different positions coming. There are 180 of us up there.
Right.
There are probably 180 different views on every issue there is.
Okay.
So you look at those and you say, where can we get to that everybody can live with? And sometimes you don't, like passing the minimum wage.
Right.
We clearly couldn't get to someplace where the governor would agree.
Right.
The systemic racism commission that we set up,
right.
we did get there.
Right.
Because we work together.
Right.
And so it makes a difference where you end up.
Right.
But and everything is incremental anyway.
Sure.
So it doesn't bother me that we don't always get exactly what we want.
Okay. Well, let me throw out a couple of issues.
Sure.
You know so the number one issue, marijuana.
Oh. Yeah.
Right. Your favorite issue. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Where you say we're at a certain place. Where are we gonna go in the next couple of years?
Well, I personally, and I don't know how I got tagged with this, but it is it is something that I've always felt that we did wrong, that our approach was wrong. And I would like to see regulation and taxation.
Right.
Regulation, because I think the RAND study said that 80,000 Vermonters are using it on a pretty regular basis.
Right.
If 80,000 people are using it, where are they getting it? Are they getting it with rat poison mixed in?
Right.
So I'd like to see it regulated, and then I'd like to see us get some benefit as a state out of that.
Sure.
It's generating a lot of money, so better that we get it. So I don't know how far we'll get. I will tell you that, and I think people should really pay attention to this. There is a group called the Rocky Mountain High Intensity Drug Task Force, something like that.
Right.
And it comes out with statistics. When we were first doing this, we spent a ton of time talking to people in Colorado and all around the country. And I know more about this issue than I ever wanted to, but that group, the Rocky Mountain High, whatever it's called, is an arm of the DEA.
Wow.
So pay attention when you're reading their statistics and their information. Pay attention to where it's coming from. And it's true, the statistics are right, but it's the slant they put on the statistics. For example, more deaths caused by marijuana.
Right.
Not caused by marijuana. It's because they didn't track them before.
Right.
And because they didn't have any guidelines. So some medical examiner out in Podunk County is looking at it and he says, oh my, there's some marijuana in this guy's system. It could have been 30 days ago.
Right.
And he checks yes.
Right.
So just people need to be aware that, but that's the information that's being used against tax and regulate.
So do you think there's any appetite for moving that?
I don't know. I hope so.
But what, especially if it was tax and it went to like something specific,
Well, we in the bill that we passed, we had it going to something specific.
Oh.
First of all, we had
good idea.
We had an upfront amount of money going to the Department of Health for education prevention, particularly among kids, and then we had an upfront amount of money going to public safety to train more drug recognition experts.
Oh.
So we had that.
Right.
Then any money that got generated that was after what you needed by the Department of Public Safety to actually do things like give the permits and that kind of stuff. We had, I believe this is right, I may not have the exact right figures, but 30% went to prevention and rehab.
Right.
Not of just of marijuana, but rehab. 30% went to the criminal justice system, and that wasn't just law enforcement, but it might have been more judges, more public defenders.
Sure.
And 30% went to the general fund.
Wow.
So
so it's in there. It's just got to. Hopefully there'll be some movement on that.
I hope.
Let me throw out another one.
Sure.
I had read the state has collected some abandoned guns, and there was talk about this going through the state treasurer. I don't know how that ended up, but in terms of what does the state do with these abandoned guns?
That's one of the things that judiciary dealt with.
Okay, there you go.
So the state has some, the local law enforcement has abandoned guns. One of the interesting things that we heard of, that most people think that the abandoned guns came from robberies or something. Any of those aren't considered abandoned because they're still in evidence.
Okay.
Okay, so they're abandoned once nobody collects them.
Okay.
So you confiscate a gun from somebody in a domestic abuse case or something, and he never comes back to pick them up.
Right.
That's an abandoned gun.
Okay.
A large number of them are from family members who have experienced a suicide.
Oh my.
They want rid of them.
Sure.
And what happens is, for some unknown reason, they got assigned to the treasurer's office because the treasurer deals with other abandoned property.
Sure.
Treasurer didn't want to have anything to do with them.
Right.
So now they're going to go through the Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
And they are going to see if I can remember exactly. Storage is a big problem.
Sure.
Because where do you store 150 guns? I don't remember how many there are, but there are hundreds of them.
Right.
So they're going to go there. They're going to be looked at, ones that are usable and that can be sold. And there are differences of opinion on this, but will be sold to a federally licensed firearms dealer.
Wow.
Now, some people think we should have just destroyed all of them.
Right.
Is to keep guns off the street.
Right.
But some of them are antiques, some of them have pretty high value, and the rest will be destroyed.
So that's a good example. So that's something that went through in your role in the Judiciary Committee.
Right.
Great. All right, so another topic, really a big one, money, campaign money. Do you think there's going to be any regulations or being laws proposed with regard to money in campaigns?
Well, we already have. I don't know if you know what we have or not, but we have a lot of limits on what you can give. What a single entity can give to a candidate, it's limited.
Okay.
You, for example, could not give me $4,000 even if you wanted to.
Oh, let me rip up that check.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
There's a limit on what you could give
as
to
an
me.
individual.
As an individual,
Okay.
or the entity. The entities are the same.
Okay.
You're an individual, a PAC, or a corporation, or whoever. Okay. So we already have that, and the only ones that we can't really regulate are what are called the super PACs.
Okay.
That's where, when people refer to dark money,
Right.
it's the super PACs that are considered expenditure PACs only. They don't give to candidates. They spend their own money, and we can't regulate those by the Supreme Court decision.
Wow, okay.
So we ask them to report, but we can't really regulate. And my feeling is that the most important thing is to have some limits and to have transparency.
Right.
So you can go to the Secretary of State's office, their website, and you can look at exactly who gave me money and exactly what I spent it on.
Right.
And it seems to me that that's what's important, because if I get money from XYZ, then you know that.
Right.
So I think transparency is the biggest issue here.
But I guess, and that's really important. I'm also looking in terms of like the cost. The cost of campaigns. Is there a way to put a cap on that?
No.
No.
You can't. We had really strict campaign laws, and the Supreme Court shot them all down in 2006.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you can't limit spending.
All right. Well, let me ask you: if you were reelected, magic wand, you're reelected.
Yep.
All right. What would be your top goal for 2019, 2020? Top goal.
That is really hard because I, for one, don't believe in single issue politics.
Okay.
I think that if you deal with single issues, you get too
Right.
funnel vision.
I hear you.
So I have a number of things that I'm already proposing.
Okay.
One of them is I believe in universal health care.
Okay.
So what I am proposing is that we put all publicly funded employees into the same health plan. That's a big pool now because you have state employees, municipal employees, county employees, VSAC, state colleges, county, everybody into the same. So that's one of the things I'm working on.
Okay.
I'm not on health and welfare, so I have to depend on them to do it.
Sure.
We are looking at law enforcement. We started doing it last year about how do we provide equitable access to law enforcement and equitable funding.
Okay.
And the way we fund our sheriffs is just ridiculous. We don't fund them.
Right. Sheriffs. Right.
So how do we change that? And so I'm working with a group of law enforcement people around how we do that.
Now, is that's in the Judiciary
No.
Committee? No, that's still not. Okay.
Law enforcement is in government operations.
Oh.
The criminal justice system is in judiciary, but they fit together very nicely. And so we have a lot of law enforcement people that come into my committee. And in fact, we had chairs for the witness.
Right.
They were beautifully carved wooden chairs.
Right.
And we had to get rid of it because it had arms on it and they couldn't get into the seats because they had all those tasers and guns and radios and stuff. So we now have chairs that don't have sides.
Wow.
But yeah.
All right. Well, all right. Now, here's a question, after all these years, and I checked, I don't think anyone's asked you this question before. Okay, here it is. What do you do when you're not wearing your state Senate hat?
Well, interestingly enough, I do something different almost every year. I have been lucky enough I've worked for Omega Optical, I worked for the Land Trust. Currently I'm working for the Brattleboro Housing Authority and have done that a couple times on special projects, not as an employee, but on special project. I was the interim development director for the town of Rockingham.
Wow.
I was the interim grants manager for the town of Brattleboro. I wrote a grants manual for the town of Brattleboro.
Wow.
Come April, I look at the paper and say, who just left their job? Do they need an interim?
Okay.
No, it's not quite that simple, but yeah. It's really hard to hold a real job if you're gone 4 days a week for 4 months.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's why I asked the question.
I love doing it, and it gets me out meeting with people and working with people that all over the county.
That's fantastic. So let's see. The other thing that I wanted to ask you was why should Windham? Here's a question.
Okay.
Why should Windham County? You've been the state senator for all these years. Why should the Windham County voters vote for you this year? Why should they vote for you again?
Partially because I've been there for a long time, and getting things done in the legislature depends on relationships. And I've been able to build up relationships in both the House and the Senate. And so I can work with different people and people on different sides of the aisle, as they say.
Right.
But also because I think I have an ability to really look at issues and bring them down to the nub of what the issue is and how can we best solve it. That is what I love about being in the legislature.
Well, that's great. So experience does count.
It does. It does count.
That's what we're voting for.
I hope you are, and I know some people say, "Oh, throw the bums out" and stuff, but I think experience does count.
Okay.
And
I don't know how many people are saying throw the bums out on the state level.
No.
I think national, but we're not here for that.
No, we're not going to go there.
So last question. Last question would be: is there anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to come across in this show? Is there something covered it all?
I think you covered it all.
Terrific.
It's very complicated. Every question is complicated and has a different answer. And I don't usually respond to those surveys that people send out. Advocacy groups send out surveys because they tend to be yes or no or yes and no.
Right.
And it's such a complex, whatever question you're dealing with is really complex, and you need to look at all sides of it and listen to people. And if you're just going to say, this is my position and that's where I'm stuck, there are very few issues that are really black and white. Things
Sure.
like marriage equality.
Right.
You don't go halfway probably, but
Right.
most are give and take, and so.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Jeanette White, Democratic candidate for the state Senate in Windham County.
Thank you
Good
so
luck
much.
good luck on the general election.
And remember, voting has already started.
I was about to say, you took my line.
Oh,
I'm going to
sorry.
say the general election is Tuesday, November 6th. Remember, you can vote early in person. You can vote absentee by mail. You can vote absentee and then hand deliver it, or you can even vote at home. The bottom line is, please vote.
Yes.
I'm Marty Cohn. Thanks for watching.